social harmony by working with our anger, overcoming anger. Because anger is one thing that stops social harmony. When we get angry at everyone, and we've seen a lot of this in recent years, I think, in America and in the world in general. When people feel fear and uncertainty, they tend to get angry. And you want to be angry at somebody, but somebody must have caused these problems for everybody. So anger can disrupt whatever social harmony you develop very easily. So Bhikkhu Bodhi wrote a book about social harmony and Buddhist teaching. And on the first page, she says, while the human heart is always stirred with the yearning for peace, harmony, and loving fellowship, the means of satisfying this yearning have ever proved elusive. That's why he wrote the book. He's very concerned with these issues, peace and harmony and love, social justice for everyone. So if you're interested in this topic, that's a very difficult treatise. He looks at Buddhist teachings in many different ways about social harmony. Individually, as a group, all the different things we can do. One of the reasons this yearning has always proved elusive is that we have emotions arise like anger, hatred, and despair. So I decided to look at anger today. We get angry for a lot of reasons. And I wanted to include this quote from the Dhammapada. He talks about reasons we can get upset and angry in this chapter. And one of the things that Atula had a problem with was people blaming him for things, and it could make him angry. So Buddha told him, it's always been this way, Atula. It's not just today. They blame you when you're silent. They blame you when you speak a lot. And even when you speak just right, no one escapes blame. There never was, nor will be, nor is there today, someone who is wholly praised or wholly blamed. So we kind of think of this as something modern. But the Buddha and his disciples also had to deal with many issues that we deal with today. People blaming others for things, people gossiping about others and giving them a bad reputation, people being greedy, people feeling that their honor has been disrespected, and so they want to strike out at someone. Buddha saw all these things. He even saw war happen. He went to the middle of a battlefield once to stop a war happening. The war was over water rights because there was a drought. And so two tribes, two clans and kingdoms were fighting over water. They were going to go to war over it, which is something people fight over today. And he went into the middle of the battlefield to stop it. So he saw this kind of dissension and upset in his own life and had to deal with it. So he has many teachings on these kinds of things. Doesn't just talk about meditation, talks about how to deal with problems that arise in our lives. So why does anger arise in a person? Actions, objects, or beings are perceived as threats to oneself or to what the self holds dear. The basic name for this in Buddhism is aversion. But we all heard of ignorance, greed, and aversion. when you have an aversion to someone, something, or some action, you can develop anger and hatred towards it. And this aversion arises because you feel it threatens you or something you hold dear. Some things may be a direct threat, like a tiger in your path. Other things are more abstract. But anything that seems to threaten ourselves is something that can make us angry. And also progressed fear, which I hope to talk about in the talk later on this year. Today in the focus on there. So these perceived threats, we perceive them as threats. And like I said, they can be real threats, like a tiger walking towards you or stalking you. But they can also be things that we perceive as a threat that are not really a threat. We see something and our mind makes it into a threat. So traditionally, scientists talk about instincts, fight or flight in response to an instinctual threat. We do things that everybody responds to, like a sudden noise, something jumping out at you, a shadow suddenly falling across you, something that looks like a snake in your path, even if it's just a piece of wood. Everyone has this fight or flight response to these kinds of things. There's another one that isn't included there, but you can also freeze. Probably seen a rabbit or a possum freeze because you stepped out of your house and frightened it. And so that's the fright, and because they perceive you as a threat. And with practice, we can even reduce our response to these instinctual things like low voices. You notice that some people who have meditated a lot, even if there's a strong wind that comes up to close the curtains, or if there's a lot of noise, they don't move or react to it because they've overcome that through calming their mind. Now, when we have perceived a threat, we can respond in that fight or flight or freeze that's instinctual. We can use our reason to respond to it. We may decide we need to defend ourselves or leave or maybe negotiate with whoever is threatening us. But we can also have emotions rise, like anger, fear, and despair. These can overwhelm our reasoning and make us not respond in perhaps the correct way. We have this idea of righteous anger, which is not considered a good thing in Buddhism. There is no really righteous anger. Everyone's anger is righteous, right? Everyone who gets angry, they think they are right to be angry. So anger is always considered a harmful emotion in the Buddhist systems. Because if you keep your mind clear and free of these emotions, you can respond to whatever the threat is, if it really is a threat, in a better way. So anger and also fear and despair, they arise as a result of what we call the 8 worldly dharmas. We have hope for pleasure and fear of pain. This is any kind of pleasure or pain. Could be physical or mental. And we don't want to be hurt. And we always want to feel good. Also hope for wealth and fear of loss of wealth. And wealth can include any kind of wealth. Money, possessions, and even your relationships. What people consider the friends and family, but wealth, and you don't want for yourself. You also hope for praise and fear of blame. Praise and blame is in response to specific instances. While fame and disrepute or ignominy is how it's sometimes translated, those are more general, like in terms of your reputation in the world. Well, praise and blame are in more specific situations. These hopes and fears that we have arise out of wanting to keep ourselves happy and safe in a world where we feel like there's us and there's them. And the them out there can be dangerous and try to take things away from us or hurt us. And when our hope is not met, or when our fear is realized, we can become very angry. When a partner leaves us, we may feel sad, but we may also get angry because they're taking away a relationship that we liked. If the market fails and we lose money, we get angry because we're losing our money and we want to blame somebody for it. Someone to take out our anger on. So our emotions arise from these hopes and fears that we have. You can overcome having these hopes and fears. You can overcome the emotional tumult that follows when they are not met. This is one of the reasons why monastics leave home. They're practicing a discipline and overcoming all of these hopes and fears. Become more calm, to free themselves from samsara using their discipline. Freedom from all these hopes and fears helps us to reduce our self-grooming, and it helps us to move towards nirvana. There are also grounds for resentment, which the Buddha talks about. And they relate to the worldly gods. But this resentment builds up into anger very quickly. The type of anger. One is that someone has acted, is acting right now, or will act for my harm. I think this is very direct. We think someone is acting against us personally. If I think the election needs to go a certain way and you're not voting the way I think is right, I could be very resentful and angry towards you. It's one of the things we've seen a lot of recently. Another ground for resentment is that someone has acted, is acting, or will act for the harm of someone who is pleasing to me. And we do this because the person who is pleasing to us makes us feel good. They make us happy, and we feel like they are part of us. We also see this when someone criticizes someone you see as a hero. People can get very angry about that. This is a lot online, and it's coming into regular life too. If there's a criticism of a movie star or a reality star, a singer whom someone becomes very attached to the extent that they make that person part of their self-identity. And I'm a fan of this person. They are like my closest friends, even though I've never met them. If we see someone criticize that person at all, that can make someone very angry. You also see that in politics. If someone is really clinging to the idea of a certain politician being pleasing to them, if someone votes against them or even criticizes them, a person can lash out with very deep anger. You can also resent someone who is acting for the benefit of someone who is displeasing to me. If someone even says they like someone you hate, you can get angry at them. It seems very silly, but people do this all the time. Even hearing that someone has voted for a politician you don't like can make people extremely angry. And we've had so much of this lately. This resentment. The antidote for anger is patience. Patience can be very difficult to develop, but we can all work on it in our lives. It may just be taking a breath every time we start to feel resentment and anger bubbling up. If you practice meditation enough, just coming back to feeling the breath in your body, it's enough to calm you down because you've done it so much it's a habit. You just take a moment and feel the breath, immediately relax and let everything go, because that's a practice you have developed of meditating mindfully. Patience itself is one of the paramitas or perfections in Buddhism. You are generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. In other words, patience comes after generosity and discipline. Because on the Bodhisattva path, you go through stages that are called the boonies. There are 10 of them. And in the first one, you enter it when you have a direct realization of shunyata, or emptiness. It's only when we have that if we can really perfect generosity. This is that openness towards everybody. When we have a direct realization of shunyata, we understand not self and impermanence thoroughly. We understand that the world is not really this battleground where I have to fight for myself against everybody else. You see that everyone is going through the same things. And you work on losing that self-attachment. It becomes much easier once you've had this direct experience of emptiness. And it brings a freedom and a great joy, because we are not giving all of our efforts towards clinging towards this thirst that we have towards things that will make me feel better. You overcome expending all of your energy on those hopes and fears that we talked about. Gives us great freedom from clinging, which makes us able to be truly generous for everybody without clinging to anything. When we have that generosity, we can go on to develop discipline. You need that freedom from self-clinging in order to be truly disciplined. To really be ethical, of course, because discipline and ethics go hand in hand in the Buddhist teachings. Once you develop generosity and discipline, then you can also perfect patience. This is the patience that is patient with everything, that never gets upset about anything at all. Well, that's a very high level of patience. But we can work on patience wherever we are, like, we may not be an awakening bodhisattva, we may not be a Buddha, but we can still develop patience to deal with things that arise in our lives. This will be good for us and good for everybody around us. Good for us because patience helps us deal with hardships that arise in our lives that stop us from reaching goals that we need to meet, like taking care of ourselves in the field. Gives us patience to deal with illness, injury, and other harms. Things that can make us feel so upset that we feel like we can't go on. Patience gives us energy to continue in the face of anything. This patience is very important. And on our personal level, where we are right now, Buddhist teachings always allow us to work wherever we are right now. You don't have to be perfect. There's forbearance, which is having patience towards harm. If someone is blaming us, accusing us of things, we can remain patient with them and be reasonable. If you get angry with them, you're just going to get upset with them. Also brings patience towards physical harm and other kinds of harm. We can keep working patiently, not give up, not get angry, not freeze. Endurance is patience towards hardship or suffering, no matter what we're going through. We can keep going. Acceptance is patience towards reality, and this is often called patience of accepting the truth. It means instead of just getting upset about what is going on in the world, we can remain patient, calm, and work towards being beneficial in the world, instead of becoming overwhelmed by our fears and our angers. We look around ourselves and see that the world today is very, very difficult if things seem impossible. We think that global warming is going to happen, you can't stop it. The economy is bad, so many things seem bad. People can fall into anger or despair. You give up trying. If we have patience, we don't give up. And patience is often seen as something that is not so good because you're putting up with things, right? We want people to stand up and be American and be angry and get stuff done. But patience is really what helps us get things done, not anger. Patience gives us strength to deal with anything that arises in life. We keep going. The Buddha himself had patience towards many, many problems that arose in his own lifetime. Talked about how he had to deal with war, seeing his own country being harmed by invaders. One of his own relatives, Devadatta, tried to split the Sangha in two, to take it over for himself. People even accused the Buddha of things like getting a girl pregnant. He put a girl in, he put a pillow under her clothing to make herself look pregnant. And the Buddha had to deal with that with patience. And actually, the girl admitted she wasn't pregnant and he had never touched her. She had never even met him before. He even had to deal with seeing members of his own Sangha being harmed. One member of the Sangha was beaten to death towards the end of the Buddha's life. But he did not give up. He did not get angry. Did not go to attack anybody. With patience, he dealt with everything that came. And he kept the Sangha going in peace and harmony. And that enabled these teachings to survive to the present day, so that we can still have benefit from them. So like the Buddha, if we have patience, we don't give up, we keep going, we can still be of benefit. I may not be able to stop global warming myself, but I can be of benefit to animals around me and people around me. I like to put out ice water in the yard in a pan for the birds when the temperatures get hot. And you will see them come stand in it and cool themselves off when the temperature is very hot, like 100 degrees. It's something very small, but it's something that I can do. I gave up, I couldn't do that, and those birds might die from the heat. So these things might seem very small, that we are helping others continue to live when we do not give up, when we stay patient, when we do not get angry. We can be of benefit to ourselves and to others, regardless of anything that is happening around us. So don't give up. Have a brave heart and keep going. If we do that, we can bring happiness to the whole world, to everybody. So thank you for listening to my talk today. May all beings know happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings know the great joy that is free from suffering. And may all beings dwell in the equanimity that is free from anger, ignorance, and greed.